Something is seriously wrong with our sleep. More than 1/3 of people now suffer the destructive effects of
sleep deprivation.
Sleep deprivation is a national epidemic.
More than 1/3 of Americans are not getting enough sleep.
More than 15 million Australians, that's a lot, are struggling to get a good night's sleep.
Our sleep is being destroyed and the health consequences are disastrous.
Lack of sleep increases your risk of heart disease, diabetes, and obesity.
From cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes.
Some experts now believe the Chernobyl nuclear power meltdown and the Exxon Valdez oil spill were both linked to a lack of sleep. Life can be a grind. With alarm clocks, deadlines, work demands, family needs, we get jacked up on stimulants just to get through the day. Coffee and energy drinks are abundant. Everything is so fast-paced. Communication is instant, food is convenient, shopping is quick, everything's at our fingertips. And as for sleep, well, life's just too busy to sleep. But it's a trap. As we strive for more, we actually achieve less.
Sleep is the foundation of mental health, physical health, and performance of all kinds.
A lack of sleep leads to anxiety and depression. Our relationships suffer. A huge number of people sleep less than 6 hours a night. And in the 1950s, this figure was just a few percent. What has caused such a rapid change in our sleep? And not only is sleep deprivation a big problem, it's big business too.
This year, Americans will fill about 60 million prescriptions for sleeping pills.
Companies across America are trying to sell us a perfect night's sleep with pills.
Why has something so simple become so hard to achieve? I went down the rabbit hole determined to find out why so many of us have lost the ability to sleep, and what I discovered really shocked me. There are specific biological signals our brains need each day to regulate sleep, signals that people simply aren't getting anymore. Modern society has hijacked our biology without us even noticing. So how do we flick the switch for sleep back on? The answers are found deep within the human brain. But first, we need to discuss a rather disturbing story of sleep deprivation. Ben Howard tragically lost his wife and 2 children when a sleep-deprived driver fell asleep at the wheel and caused a head-on collision. The CDC states that staying awake for just 17 hours is similar to having a drug alcohol level some countries would deem drunk driving. Sadly, Ben's tragic story is not unique.
A tired driver, that's the primary cause of that horrific tour bus crash that killed 15 people.
Drowsy driving is the second leading cause of fatal vehicle accidents, behind only drunk driving.
Our lives have become so busy we don't have time to sleep. Working long hours, bills, insurance, meals, school, exercise, friends, deadlines, and at the end of the day, we crash. Watching TV late at night, falling asleep on the couch, our eating habits become erratic, fast food, skipping meals, eating on the go. We all seem to be striving to get ahead, but a lack of sleep causes us to lose the ability to solve problems, create new ideas, and store memory. And the risk of brain diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia increase. Not to mention, a lack of sleep makes us fat.
All right, so sleep loss impacted your body's ability to burn calories and you consuming more calories.
To get to the truth about sleep, we first need to go back in time before things went so horribly wrong, and study what our ancestors lived like, because many of the things in our modern world, although convenient, have a dark side that messes with our sleep. The first is light. Imagine you lived in the 1700s. There's no artificial light in your home. When the sun rises, you wake and spend a lot of your day outside, and at sundown, you light a fire, eat a meal, relax by candlelight, and then you sleep. No overhead lights, no devices, no alarm clocks. Sleep came easy back then, but why? Your brain has an internal clock called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It holds the secret to sleep. It sets the daily timing of sleep, but it needs our help to set the time. It needs signals to know when to release hormones to wake us and to make us sleep, and the most powerful signal is early morning sunlight. It's the blue light wavelength in the morning sun that signals special nerve cells in the eyes that tell the brain to release the hormone cortisol. Cortisol makes us feel awake, focused, and energized, and a timer is set for the release of the sleepy hormone melatonin later in the day. However, here's where things go wrong. The same blue light comes from our devices. Using them at night creates the same signal to release cortisol but at the wrong time. But for many, no devices at night is almost impossible. The solution is free blue light blocking apps that sync with the timing of the sun, reducing the disruptive power of blue light at night from devices. But blue light isn't bad, we need it. In the morning, blue light through the eyes helps your brain set its internal clock. Standing outside in the morning light for 10 minutes after you wake will do it. As Dr. Andrew Huberman explains,
light viewing early in the day is the most powerful stimulus for wakefulness throughout the day, and it has a powerful positive impact on your ability to fall and stay asleep at night.
But I discovered something else, that managing your light exposure isn't going to work. Not on its own. Because there's something else that sets this clock too. We can sabotage this internal clock in other ways without even knowing. Like wearing socks in bed. There's another important signal the brain needs that most of us completely miss. It's like a switch we can flick on that tells the brain to sleep. Sleep expert Dr. Matthew Walker states that the reason it's easier to fall asleep in a room that's too cold rather than too hot is because our brain needs to drop our core temperature by 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit for us to fall and stay asleep. In a similar way to light, the brain responds to changes in temperature, and one of the main mechanisms the body uses to control temperature is through our hands and feet, which is why socks can be a problem in bed, but more on that in a minute. When we look at hunter-gatherer tribes in Namibia whose way of life hasn't changed for thousands of years, not only do they not wear socks, they don't actually sleep when the sun goes down, but instead when the temperature drops rapidly hours later as the land cools. Scientists that have studied these tribes stated the sleep period consistently occurred during the nighttime period of falling environmental temperature. But today most people don't experience this temperature drop. Our homes, workplaces and cars are all temperature controlled. Most of our lives are lived at the same temperature. The temperature signal just isn't getting sent to the brain. But living in tents like the tribes of Namibia isn't exactly practical. But here's what you can do. Dropping the temperature in your bedroom and not wearing socks in bed can help your body regulate a drop in body temperature it needs to sleep. Dr. Matthew Walker explains that our hands and feet have a large amount of blood vessels, which allows the body to evacuate heat through them at night, which helps us to sleep. Having a hot bath or shower before bed also triggers a drop in body temperature when you get out. There's also certain foods that can help, like bone broth and gelatin and collagen that are high in the amino acid glycine, as it helps relax blood vessels and causes a drop in body temperature too. However, while light and temperature changes can help the brain sleep, there's another crucial part of the sleep equation, which if we get wrong, makes sleep almost impossible. And although sleep is important, if you want to unlock the hidden secrets of health and discover what's really driving heart disease, diabetes, autoimmune conditions, and obesity, then get free instant access to the Longevity Code documentary series, featuring dozens of doctors and health experts from around the world, packaged into 7 episodes of exclusive video footage. Plus, you'll also get digital copies of The Art of Sleep and The Obese Brain books. Just click the link in the description below now.
And sales at Starbucks are perking up.
Starbucks is reporting that it's opening a new coffee shop or Starbucks every 15 hours.
Coffee giant telling investors it'll open 12,000 new locations within 5 years.
Energy drinks. Sales of the beverages are booming, with the makers emphasizing the exotic ingredients. Critics, though, say the stimulation really comes from caffeine.
That Monster beverage saw sales grow by around 10% last month.
Not hard to see the explosion of caffeinated drinks in recent years. Caffeine is the only psychoactive drug that we let children have without medical advice. Some energy drinks even have 3 times the caffeine of a standard coffee.
I don't like coffee. It's a vasoconstrictor. Hey, coffee is the #1 drink in the world. Everybody drinks it. Even little kids in Mexico drink coffee.
But what exactly is caffeine doing to our sleep? Well, during the day, when the brain is active, it produces a molecule called adenosine. Throughout the day, levels of adenosine rise. The higher the levels, the more tired we get. However, there's a problem. Caffeine blocks adenosine receptors in the brain, messing this whole process up. Research shows that having caffeine close to sleep reduces a deep, restorative sleep by 20%. So even though you might be asleep, your body isn't experiencing proper rest. Thankfully, the effects of caffeine wear off, provided we limit it to early in the day, at least 8 hours before we go to sleep. And then adenosine can still do its job and make us feel tired. But when it comes to chemicals affecting the brain, while millions turn to caffeine to start the day, they also turn to sleeping pills to sedate them at the end of it. But do sleeping pills actually help? Well, sort of, but not how you might think. Sure, they knock you out, but it's not real sleep.
According to research, although these sleeping pills might help you sleep longer, are you really sleeping better? Not really.
There are a class of drugs that we call the sedative hypnotics, and sedation is not sleep.
They work by interfering with the frontal cortex, a part of the brain responsible for keeping us awake. Sort of like cutting the wires and the lights go out. They sedate the brain, and brain scans reveal startling results. The brain wave activity is very different. None of the true restorative aspects of sleep are experienced. In deep sleep, the body washes spinal fluid over the brain to flush away toxins, sort of like a brain nightly cleanup crew. Without this process, the risk of brain diseases like Alzheimer's rises. However, what's more disturbing is that sleeping pills have been associated with an increase in death.
New study shows a link between the use of sleeping pills and death.
138 patients on sleep medication died versus 295 deaths of people who were not on the drugs.
We sleep 1/3 of our lives, yet doctors only get a few hours of education on sleep. It's not surprising that pills is the first-line therapy for sleep in many cases. But what if there's another way? Chamomile tea has been traditionally given to people with insomnia because it contains apigenin, which helps reduce an anxious, overactive mind that keeps people awake. Magnesium affects 300 functions in the body and has a profound effect on sleep. Some estimates state that 70% of people are deficient in magnesium.
So many symptoms we didn't even think of as being related to magnesium, but they are, like muscle cramps or muscle twitching, insomnia.
As Dr. Hyman explained, low levels of magnesium are linked to muscle cramps and insomnia, but symptoms also include tiredness during the day and depression, can also cause seizures and numbness. Magnesium leads to an increase in melatonin production, the hormone that makes us sleep, while lowering adrenaline, the hormone that keeps us alert. It also helps with restless leg syndrome, a common sleep disruptor. If your legs won't relax in bed, there's a good chance you're low in magnesium. And then there's L-Theanine, an amino acid found in green tea that supports the relaxed alpha wave brain state and can reduce anxious thinking. And so, with the right lifestyle and diet, you can support the brain to sleep in a world that's constantly trying to rob us of it. However, there's something much deeper going on with our sleep that we just can't ignore. When developing this video, I realized something. We strive to get ahead, working long hours, often with anxious thoughts and big decisions in our mind, and sleep takes a backseat. We believe we need to work harder, longer hours, and do more to get ahead. But what if this isn't true, and instead is deeply rooted in a flawed belief system? You see, the brain is like a muscle. The more you use it, the more it fatigues. Working out for 2 hours does not double the effect that working out for 1 does, because your muscles tire. And the brain is similar. It produces diminishing returns the more we use it without resting. Important decisions, worrying about outcomes, hustling to get more done late at night, checking email and Facebook, it's a false economy. In fact, we achieve less. The quality of our output declines, and we never give our brain a chance to rest properly, making the next day even harder. Essentially, if you give your brain what it needs, it will give you what you want in less time, not more. I noticed that if I just stopped and spent some time with family and friends, exercising or doing simple things, enjoying nature, I actually became more efficient and got more done in less time, and ironically, was able to sleep better. Author Mark Manson puts it this way: the truth is that most types of work, especially the work that will make you some money in this modern society, does not produce linear returns. It produces diminishing returns. But what's amazing is that this leisure time, this ability to distract one's brain away from problem solving and work, actually makes your brain far more effective upon returning to work. So some of the best solutions for sleep are the simple things in life. And perhaps we make this whole sleep thing harder than it needs to be. But if there's one area of health that people struggle with more than sleep, it's losing weight. But what most people don't realize is the devastating effect modern foods have on the brain, creating powerful addictions and driving us to overeat. And the worst part, it happens to people without them even realizing. If you've ever struggled to lose weight, make sure to watch our eye-opening video, Fat Loss Lies, by clicking the image on the screen now, where we expose dirty secrets of the processed food industry and reveal the real reason most people struggle to lose weight.